Hey everybody, it's Todd Dills here, back with another edition of Overdrive Radio. This one, the day prior to the annual April 15th tax filing deadline. Here's hoping ducks are in a row for you on that front, or for the extension if you'll be filing late this year. For today, we're back with another in our series highlighting contenders for the 2025 Trucker of the Year Award, with Overdrive Senior Editor Matt Cole's talk with Virginia-headquartered two-truck straight dump owner-operator business Dice Mayhem's Trucking, headed up by owner-operator Hunter Hubbard and her husband, Tim, Truckers of the Month for March. Hunter's just about 6 years into truck ownership herself, her husband a good bit longer, yet clearly she's harnessed a quality that current reigning Trucker of the Year Alan Kitzhaber sees in all successful people when it comes to business. As he put it earlier this year in his Plan for Better Business, authored for our Overdrive Extra blog, 99.9% of success is desire. That is, those who have a clear case of the want-tos ultimately probably will do whatever it is they set out to accomplish. Cue Hunter Hubbard's own advice for any aspiring truck owner when it comes to success in business for themselves.
Honestly, if it's something that you want to do, and you have your mind set to get your own truck and go do your own thing, and you can get in with a company that treats you right and treats you fair, takes care of you, that makes a world of difference. But if you have your mind set to do it, go for it. I mean, there's nothing stopping you but yourself. And the worst thing you can do is fail. But at the end of the day, nobody wants to fail. You're going to figure it out one way or the other. You'll have days that really suck, but, you'll sit back a month down the road, 2 months down the road, and be like, "Man, that was rough, but hey, we're still here." You just got to keep digging on it.
As she well acknowledges, those challenges will present themselves day in and day out, but those who keep digging will get through to the other side. Clearly, Hubbard herself has been one of those sorts these last years in business.
So it might be a little stubborn sometimes.
She and Tim have built a steady base of customers for their two-truck straight dump business in and around their Virginia home base, weathering an array of their own customer challenges in recent years when a buyout of one of their main customers and integration of the two businesses left their own trucking company in an uncertain position for hauling work.
The bigger you are, the higher you are on the priority list to be contacted to work for them.
Last year, then, she pivoted to a certain extent with purchase of an older Peterbilt tractor, utilizing mechanical prowess with the new shop, too, to get it in working order and standing up a new one-truck business for livestock hauling regionally in Dice Logistics. Yet, dump work remains the Hubbard's bread and butter, and the seasonality of both businesses continues to inspire the occasional second-guessing of their commitment to niche specialization. They could be hauling just food or something, which always has to run, Hubbard notes, telling her story to Cole in the episode you'll hear shortly. They could be doing that is.
But, I can't really choose that route. Because everything's seasonal, everything depends on the weather, and, we just gotta wait. We gotta wait it out.
Yet the Hubbards are doing more than just waiting, that's sure. Keep digging with owner-operator Hunter Hubbard and Dice Mayhem's Trucking after the break.
When the road calls, trust Howe's Diesel Defender to keep you rolling. Armed with advanced IDX4 detergent, Defender cleans and prevents all harmful deposits, including IDIDs and asphaltenes. It also reduces emissions and regen cycles, giving you a 5% boost in fuel economy or more. With improved power restoration and throttle response along with less injector sticking, whether you're hauling loads or cruising cross-country, Howe's Diesel Defender will help you go further than ever before.
Find more information about Diesel Defender via the Howes website. That's HOWES, HowesProducts.com. Here's Hunter Hubbard in conversation with Overdrive Senior Editor Matt Cole last month, tracing her family's bit of trucking history. Likewise, her education in maintenance via her automotive mechanic father. Here we go.
My great-grandfather ran a field truck when he was younger. That's about the only driving history I have. Was always interested in automotive and trucks and things like that, but never really got into it because I actually grew up in the city. Moved out to Winchester met my now husband, and he was driving for a local steel erection company. And he came home one day after we had our son and said, I think I'm going to buy a dump truck. I was like, oh, okay. I guess we can do that. Sure. So that's kind of where it started, was that we just kind of, it was go all in, think slim, don't really know what we're doing, but we'll figure it out. Got his dump truck going, and then I've been home working on it and everything else, and I'm like, maybe I should get my license and do this. So I ended up finding myself a truck and got my license and all that jazz. Been operating the dump truck company for going on 7 years now.
Okay.
And we just started a second company, running road tractors. Dice Mayhem's Trucking is a dump truck company, and then we have Dice Logistics that we just started this past September. I decided I want to go cow trucking. So now I'm hauling cows around.
What year was it that you actually started driving a truck?
2019.
Jumped into business ownership, being an owner-operator right there off the bat?
I did. I bought myself a truck before I had a license to drive it. I didn't have a choice but to get it.
Got your own authority in 2019 as well?
Dice Mayhem's we got in 19, and then Dice Logistics we got our own authority for last year. Trucking is a roller coaster, a complete roller coaster. When things are finally somewhat level and going smooth, it's either you get really busy or something breaks, or both. So it's just a never-ending roller coaster. Luckily for us, we work on our own trucks. As a matter of fact, the Kenworth that I have, the dump truck, the quad axle, I built that truck myself. It didn't look anything like it does now. That helps a good bit with trying to save money and cut costs, but parts and everything, tires, just regular maintenance at this point so high. Hopefully we'll get back to a point where that's not as bad.
Right.
But, rates are the same as they've been, as they were when we started. Maybe change a couple bucks, but not a lot.
Yeah.
To, cover the additional costs and what everything is.
Tell me about the trucks that you guys own.
So we have a 2002 Peterbilt 357 tri-axle dump truck, one he primarily drives. I have a 2005 Kenworth W9 that I drive primarily. And then we started Dice Logistics and bought a 98 Peterbilt 379 extended hood. And I have two other trucks kind of on the back burner, and they're not on the road yet.
Okay.
I have a 94 378. Honestly, I just kind of got a good deal on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a 1990 379 extended hood, currently the day cab. That's going to be the next truck that I build out, like I did in Kenworth. Dump trucks or straight trucks. We're kind of all across the board. I primarily haul asphalt with mine. When I built it and spec'd it out and got the bed for it and everything, it has an asphalt bed. It has the asphalt lip to go into the paver. It's double walled, insulated. It has the slide back tarp that covers all sides to keep heat in and all that. So I have mine primarily set up for asphalt.
Okay.
Now I will haul dirt and gravel and things like that. Now my other truck, the 357, it's set up to do just kind of all around the board. It does have an aluminum body, which kind of hinders some of the really, really big stuff. But we did line the floor with oak boards, like 2-inch thick oak boards, so we can still haul somewhat big stuff. We just kind of have to be mindful of it. That one typically goes to dirt jobs, stone, anything like that. We have a list of, say, a dozen and a half different companies that we work directly for, depending, whether it be site work, getting ready to build a new shopping center, a new store, or restaurant, new apartment complex or housing development, all the way to we have companies we work directly for that contract with the state to do interstate paving.
The Hubbards are certainly invested in trucking for the long term, with acquisitions to set the business up for growth as demand from customers comes and time allows to restore and put to work those older units. They built a shop, too, within the last year to flex maintenance prowess out of the elements, for once, as Hunter tells it.
Up until this past August, we didn't have a shop. Everything was pretty much in the front yard. Rain, shine, snow. It got interesting. But
I can imagine.
We did finally build a shop that we could get the trucks into. So we're starting to slowly get that set up. We do keep some stuff in stock per se at the house. Brake chambers. We keep oil filters, seal filters, air filters, your miscellaneous fittings, bolt pin, stuff you're going to go through regularly, or at least try to keep, some of like the quick release valves, things like that. They can go bad. It's an easy fix, but it's not so easy when it's 2:00 in the morning and it decides to, go out on you.
Yeah.
We try to keep that kind of stuff in stock. As for maintenance schedule, every 15 to 20,000, we service them. I grease them every other weekend. Depending on how hard I'm running, I might adjust accordingly, but that's about every 15 to 20. But as for like the bigger ticket item type things, the only thing we don't do that we will start doing is actually motor builds. I've replaced transmission, the rears. I dropped the whole steer axle out of my truck after work one day because it needed leaf springs and kingpins. It just kind of gets done. So my dad has been in automotive my whole life.
Okay.
So I kind of grew up around the shop world. But he's on the car side of things. So I grew up, kind of watching all that, learning that stuff. And I've had old cars, motorcycles, just stuff to tinker with. When I got into the trucks, it was, we're going to figure it out. So between what my husband already knew, because he's been around it, and his first big job in trucking was he worked for Mack Manufacturing. So, he knows a good bit of stuff about working on trucks. So learning some stuff from him, and then just kind of teaching myself, trying to research, talk to buddies of mine that, fellow owner operators. One of my good friends, Randy, him and I will take stuff apart and put it back together. We'll get off work one day and be chasing a problem we've had for 3 days, and we'll get off work on a Friday afternoon and have the truck in 5,000 pieces and somehow get it back together by Sunday afternoon to go to work on Monday.
That's awesome.
Sometimes if you walk into the shop, you'd wonder what we're doing. I gotta get in the hang of things, through the years, I guess.
Insurance was certainly on Matt Cole's mind around the time of the talk with Hunter Hubbard, just before we published his 2-part feature with plenty tales of recent renewals and ways to save on insurance by shopping around, improving the trucking company's risk profile, utilizing technology where it makes sense to help in that, and via other means. Find a link to that feature in the show notes wherever you're listening. The Hubbards have their own insurance split between their two businesses for convenience in some ways, but savings in others, according to Hunter.
On the dump truck side of things, for one of our main contractors we deal with, we have to carry 3 additional policies on top of just what state requirements are, or federal requirements are, because we're going on the interstate to pave and all that kind of stuff. So it's rather costly on that aspect of it. I can't say that as of yet I've noticed a huge increase, but I haven't gotten a real, decline in cost either.
Yeah.
But with that being said, The whole reason we ended up starting Dice Logistics was due to the fact of the different insurance requirements from having a road tractor versus having the dump truck. To put everything together as one, it was almost $30,000 additional a year, and that was just elevating, because I'd have to move the dump trucks to another policy with the road tractor because the company I have the dump trucks on refuses to insure road tractors. That was the reasoning behind separating it. That's a lot of overhead cost that isn't necessarily necessary.
Instead of that 30,000, what did it end up being when you started the different company?
I think the tractor, and we have a flatbed, and then I have to carry the non-owned trailer insurance and all that for the trailer that I pull. It was like $19,000 for the year, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the dump trucks, they're about 28. With the additional for the dump trucks, you're looking closer to you're pushing that 42-ish mark.
Yeah, that's a lot of money every year.
You got fuel at $5 a gallon, and with everything changing and companies, some going out, some absorbing each other and switching around, it was a bit of a challenge. I'll say that about 2 years ago, the main company that we haul for, Holland Blacktop, which is, our main quote-unquote breadwinner, they ended up buying out a smaller mom-and-pop type company, but they had a huge networking base, and they got a lot of state work, the only one in the area. So they obtained, a good service area doing so, but they also brought in the challenge of how do we absorb all these people and who's taking what role from which company, and how do we make this non-biased, because these guys have been working for this company for the last 10 years, and these guys have been working for the other company for the last 10 years. Now we got to try to get somebody non-biased and to mesh everything together, and it's been a big challenge, and from what I've seen and dealt with, of trying to do so. We also had another smaller company that was bought out by a company down out of the city, and the challenge that you run into with it, on that side of it, is they don't want to make 15 phone calls a day to schedule trucks. Mm-hmm. They want to call 3. So the more trucks you have, and the more the bigger you are, the higher you are on the priority list to be contacted to work for them. Because they're not going to go out and call Billy Bob over here and John over here and Mary and make 10 extra phone calls they don't have to necessarily make when they can call the top 3 and get everything they need.
Right.
And stroke a check at the end of the week. So that created another level of challenge, the mix, especially towards the end of the year, because the company, before it was bought out, was one of the main companies we kind of carry from October to January, February, which gets us through the slow months with the weather. So that definitely put a damper on it. And as for getting through it, we're here. The weather's starting to break, so things will get rolling.
Yeah.
But it's never necessarily easy. I can say that.
As far as looking ahead through the rest of 2025, it sounds like the first couple of months have been a little bit slow for you. But what's your outlook for the business, for the rest of the year?
Couple big jobs that are coming in. It should be fairly lucrative on the dump truck side of things. Some big projects starting. As for the road tractor, I actually just had a meeting with a gentleman earlier this week to get something somewhat local and steady, to get that ball rolling. Kind of find a quote unquote home, if you will, for that aspect of it. And I think that will turn out pretty well. So hopefully within the next, month or so, because the weather puts a damper on a lot of it overall, both sides of it for me. I could have, hauled groceries, produce or essentials, and those kind of have to go for the most part. Obviously they're not dire emergency necessarily needs all the time, but it's more consistent work, but or seems to be. But I didn't really choose that route. I chose everything's seasonal, everything depends on the weather, and we just kind of wait. We gotta wait it out.
It's a time of transition for the dice companies, no doubt, and this year Hunter's planning to spend time herself on both straight dump and tractor sides, she said, as the Hubbards ease into new business.
But I'll probably be floating this year back and forth trying to figure out what we want to do. My Kenworth, nobody drives that one, so he can just stay in the garage in the city. I've put a little bit of work into that one, so I don't even let him drive it. So we just back up. I
saw that you guys don't have any business debt. Is that accurate?
Well, we do and we don't, I guess. We don't have a lot of necessarily the overhead with having new truck payments. But on the bad side of it, you have the repair bills.
Right.
Which, you still have on both sides of it. But, when you got a truck that has 1.5 million miles on it, things tend to go wrong a little bit more often
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
a truck that has 10,000 miles on it. So, we do, but we don't.
Clearly recognizing there the trade-offs of debt-free business. The need to take on future debt is always a massive breakdown away, as it were, though clearly the Hubbards have their equipment in fine shape to weather what comes. Speaking of Hunter's own 2005 KWW9 dump, it's become a big part of the couple's activity outside the business, too, after the owner's big revamp of the rig to show as well as work.
When I bought my Kenworth, it was a W900S, a slope hood. I'm not a huge fan of slope hoods, and it was a weird purple, pink, mauve. I don't know what color you want to call it, but it was terrible. And the paving crew I was working for had broken the brake spider, sheared the bolts off of the brake chamber and cam tube on the brake spider on the truck I had prior. And I was in the market for a truck. A buddy of mine was kind of joking around, like, "Oh, I'll sell this one." I'm like, "Well, call your dad. Get me a number. Like, I need a truck yesterday, and sitting around here trying to look for something isn't paying the bills. So let's see what we can do here." When I got the Kenworth, sitting in the house one day trying to just look up measurements, they only make a L model and a B model and an S model, but they didn't make a lot of S models because those were vocational trucks primarily. So I was sitting in the house like, they don't make that many cabs and chassis. One of them's got to be similar, and it's stubby, so let's figure out the measurements on a B model and see if it'll fit. I did the measurements, got on Marketplace, found a hood in Pennsylvania, went and bought it, brought it home. A couple weeks went by, and I couldn't stand it anymore, so I swapped it. It was a direct pin-to-pin, just had to make a couple adjustments, and there was my B model. So that was 2021. So between Christmas and New Year's of 21 to 22, I took it off the road for a week, stripped it down, did all the paint work, all the body work, put all the chrome back on it, and then rewired the truck from scratch. Honestly, that was the first, I guess, big overhaul project I really did. Like I said, I had old cars and stuff. I'd go to the local car show here and there, but never had anything super fancy, So the next 22 kind of kept tweaking on it, changing little things here and there, kind of getting it where I wanted it to be. And then I happened to look on Facebook one day and saw there was Mayberry Truck Show in Mount Airy, North Carolina, which is only about 5.5 hours from me. It was on my birthday weekend. I'm like, it'd be cool to take my truck to a truck show. Like, I've never been to a truck show. It's nothing special, but I did it, and I want, I want to show it off. Why not? I can just put me in the back corner. It's okay. I can embarrass myself back here. That was the year of the hurricane. It was absolutely miserable, but I was there, and I was freezing in the rain, in the cold, and we were sitting in the truck, with the lights on for the light show. It's, 6 layers on over here freezing. I was like, I've enjoyed this. I'm determined to enjoy this. But, one of those, I might be a little stubborn sometimes. That was kind of what started the truck show scene and all that. After that, just slowly kept, coming up with ideas and working on it and switching stuff. And, ultimately I had a vision of what I wanted it to look like at the end of it, ultimately. But, the downside is I got to work the truck to make the money, to make the changes, to build it out. So you're trying to juggle working on it and trying to put it back together to get it back to work. So it was an interesting journey. But went to a handful of shows in 23. September of 23, I finally got the new body for it. Got it installed. I did not install the bed. That was the one thing I didn't do to it. Actually put it on because I don't have the overhead crane and equipment to move it all and all that jazz. I got it back the Tuesday before the Mayberry Truck Show. I was supposed to have it back about a week before that, and there were some delays. So ended up getting it back on a Tuesday evening and got home, took the chalk line, the tape measure, the Sharpie, started laying out all the lines and the center marks for the holes to put all the lights in the body. Went to work Wednesday for a few hours, came back and wired around the clock until Friday morning at 1:30, and then got the truck and went to North Carolina because I was not going there without the lights in the body. But ended up actually getting a sponsorship from Trucks Accessories. They ended up supplying me with some new fenders that they came out with last year, and some new lights they came out with last year, and asked me to feature them on my truck to go to Mid-America Truck Show in Louisville, Kentucky, which is the kind of kickoff of the season.
Yeah,
it's the big show.
Right.
All the big dogs are there, and I'm over here like, not really sure I belong here, but we made it. So I was at Louisville last year. And then I went to a couple shows last year. And shows are hard because with working it and trying to keep it clean and clean it for the show, and then traveling and all that in between work, shows are hard. They really are. But it's a community that I'll say that kind of it surprised me because you see some of these trucks and they're a whole nother caliber of somewhere I can't really imagine myself being, to be honest. But everybody kind of gets together. It's not, at the end of the day, we're just here to hang out and have fun. And it's definitely something that's a lot of fun. Met a lot of good people. I met a lot of good people that are good friends of mine.
Big congrats to Trucker of the Year contender in March, Trucker of the Month, Hunter Hubbard. Owner with her husband, Tim, of the Dice Mayhems and Dice Logistics trucking businesses, building connection, staying the course. The 2025 Trucker of the Year program is sponsored again this year by Commercial Vehicle Group and Bostrom Seating, with the winner the beneficiary of a new Bostrom seat, among other perks, including a scale model build of the tractor of the winner's choice. Find out how you can enter your own or another owner-operator's business with competition via the Trucker of the Year section of overdriveonline.com, or visit the initial entry page at overdriveonline.com/toptrucker. Find that link and links to more coverage of Hunter Hubbard and her business wherever you're listening to this edition of Overdrive Radio. It's on Spotify and SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and YouTube, Overdrive's Facebook page, and any listening platform, really. Leave us a review there if you're enjoying these, and here's a big thanks in advance for it. And As always, big thanks for listening. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar, dobro, and other support of trucker songwriter Long Haul Paul Marhofer. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer, featuring the guitar work of Travis, the Snake Man himself, Whammick. Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tisha Mingo, Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own social media coordinator, Jasmine Campbell, senior editor Matt Cole, executive editor Alex Lockey, and video editors Lawson Rudisell, Andrew Gwynn. See you next week.